Renowned director and poet Gulzar presents Namkeen. Namaste, I'm Grishma and I welcome you to the IndiCineGlitz channel. This heartwarming movie begins in a remote village of beautiful Himachal Pradesh, nestled in the foothills of Himalayas, where an old woman named Jyoti, whom everyone calls Amma, lives in a rundown house with her 3 daughters. Amma's poor family earns a living by selling spices and is looking for a tenant. One day, Dhaniram, who owns a dhaba in the village and buys spices from Amma, brings a tenant to her. He is Gerulal, a nomadic truck driver who has to stay in the village for a few months. He finds Amma's family strange and eccentric. He gets acquainted to all the family members, one by one. The youngest Chinky is a mischievous teenager who never misses an opportunity to tease Gerulal. Mittu is the middle one and Chinky's partner in her mischief. The eldest is Nimki, a strict middle-aged woman as the head of the household. And their mother, an old trout and extremely practical woman, is always complaining about something. This family making Gerulal regret coming to this village. Gerulal is often engaged in petty arguments with Amma's family. One day, he angrily complains about this weird family to Dhaniram, but he is forced to stay there as he has already paid the monthly rent. But Nimki finds out and refunds him his entire rent the next day. But since it was short-term affair, Gerulal returns the rent and decides to put up with this crazy family for a few more days. After some day, Gerulal gets into a small trouble in the village. Chinky and Nimki bail him out of the trouble, making him grateful to them. And thus, he slowly begins to understand this family. Although on the surface, they all seem harsh and fierce, but deep down, he finds them loving and kind people. He sees an unbreakable bond of love and affection for each other in this family. His prejudices against them slowly fades away, and he is now trying to get along with the family. One day, Gerulal overhears some low-minded people of the village talking dirty and obscene things about Amma's daughters. Enraged, Gerulal teaches them a befitting lesson and drives them away. At home in the evening, he asks Nimki to let him take care of the errands of the house and requests her not to send Chinky or Mittu out alone. Nimki then tells him that be it her or little Chinky, they all face humiliation and lustful glances from the society, and their only solution is to ignore it and bear it in silence. After seeing their plight and helplessness, Gerulal feels sympathy for the family and wants to help them in every way possible. Amma's family also reciprocate his affection and starts treating him as a family member. A few days later, at one late night, Gerulal hears some movement outside the house. When he comes out to investigate, he finds a drunken old man trying to break into the house. Gerulal catches him, seizes his knife, and demands an explanation. The old man says he has come there to see a woman named Chugni and young girls. Enraged, Gerulal threatens to hand him over to the police if he returns and drives him away. He tells about the old thief to Amma and Nimki, who came out after hearing the noise, and shows them his knife. Amma looks shocked to see the knife. She thanks Gerulal and goes to sleep. Meanwhile, Gerulal falls in love with Nimki. He writes a letter to his parents expressing his desire to marry Nimki. But after some time, he finds that someone has crossed out Nimki's name and written Mittu's name instead. Just then, Mittu comes there, and Gerulal, who thinks that Mittu has tampered with his letter, demands an answer from her. But Mittu looks confused and remains silent. Gerulal then scolds her to stop playing mute and say something. Mittu is hurt and runs away. Nimki then tells Gerulal that Mittu is really a mute and is hurt by him. Ashamed, Gerulal says that he didn't know that she was mute. He always thought that she was a quiet girl, always accompanied with Chinky, so he never noticed it. Nimki further tells that she was kidnapped in her childhood. She was found later, but was terrified. Someone had severely beaten her, due to which she was traumatized and had not eaten food for several days. With time, she became normal, but lost her voice forever. Gerulal apologizes to Mittu. Innocent Mittu then forgives him and recites one of her poems to him, and that's how they become good friends. Amma's family is now fond of Gerulal and wants him to marry Nimki. Amma and Chinky express that Gerulal is the best suitor for Nimki, which is why he is on cloud 9 these days. One day, Nautanki, that is, a traveling group of dancing women, arrives in the village, which makes Amma very upset. Amma locks her daughters in the house and starts cursing those gimmicks. When Gerulal asks the reason, Amma tells him that the house thief was none other than her husband, Kishan Lal. Talking about her past life, she tells that she was a Nautanki dancer in her youth and was called Jugni. She and Kishan Lal were the partners who later got married. But after a few years, debauched Kishan Lal stole all her earnings and abandoned her and their children. He later became bankrupt, so now he wants his daughters to be his easy income source by making them Nautanki dancers. He tried to kidnap Mithu and beat her to convince her anyhow, but Jugni failed his attempt and since kept her daughters away from him. Her daughters too know their greedy father's ill intention and want nothing to do with him. Amma raised her children with great difficulty and only wants them to get married and live a happy life. But in the conservative, patriarchal society of that time, having no man in the house was a matter of contempt and scorn in the society. Therefore, Amma's family is forced to live isolated in the village, away from evil eyes and hatred of the society. And yet, none of the decent men in the village want to marry Amma's daughters. This is why Amma is concerned about the future of her daughters and is always worried about their welfare and safety. The next day, Mithu goes to the Nautanki organizers with a letter, hoping that her father runs it. She has written in the letter that she is ready to become a Nautanki dancer, but in return, he must leave her family, especially her sisters, alone forever. When Gerulal learns about this, he tells Mithu that Amma has faced a lot of difficulties for them, so she should not waste all her efforts like this. Back home, he tells Amma that she no longer needs to worry about Kishan Lal, as he told him that night that he is the owner of this house and no woman named Jugni lives here anymore. Hearing this, Amma feels her burden getting lightened and feels relieved. She is grateful to Gerulal for helping her family, and after many years, on that day, Amma's family looks happy. After a few days, Gerulal's contract in the village ends and he gets ordered to leave for the new place. He brings gifts for everyone and with a heavy heart tells Nimki about his departure the next day. Nimki is sad to hear this. Gerulal then pours out his heart to her that he loves her and wants to marry her. But Nimki rejects it and says that without her, this family will not survive and she can never leave this house. Also, she wishes him to marry Mithu and keep her happy. Gerulal replies that he loves only Nimki and that Mithu is just his good friend. He is willing to wait and come back for her. But Nimki refuses again and asks him to move on in life and be happy. The next day, while leaving, Gerulal writes his address in Mithu's book and asks Nimki to write to him whenever she needs him. He bids farewell to everyone and leaves with a heavy heart. After this, story moves forward to 3 years. Gerulal is at another village on contract. One evening, his friend takes him to the Nautanki in the village. The show is houseful due to its famous dancer. When the dancer comes on stage, Gerulal is shocked to see her because the dancer was Chinky. Gerulal meets Chinky after the dance and scolds her for thwarting Amma's effort to save her from all this filth. Enraged, Chinky replies that she was tired of her miserable life in that house and didn't want to lose her sanity. She ran away from home to her father, who is now the owner of this Nautanki. She is angry with Gerulal for not marrying Nimki, abandoning them, and breaking all her hopes despite him being treated as a part of her family. Gerulal says that he never received any letter from Nimki, so he's not aware of anything after his departure. Chinky then asks him to go back to her village and meet Nimki to know the plight of her family. Gerulal then immediately goes to the village to see Nimki. Nimki can't hold back her tears at the sight of him and tells her ordeal that after a few months of his departure, Mithu started having bouts of madness. She would hide in the high rocks and laugh like a maniac, and one day she slipped from the rock and died on the spot. After Mithu's death, Amma gave up food and remained bedridden. Meanwhile, Chinky also left the house, leaving a letter not to look out for her and leave her alone. And just after a few days, Amma also died, leaving Nimki all alone in the world. Gerulal is saddened seeing the plight of Amma's family. He realizes that this family has done nothing but sacrifice for each other. Amma died with the desire for her daughter's marriage. Mittu ultimately succumbed to her trauma. Chinky left the house and went to her father so that he would leave Nimki alone and she can marry Gerulal and live a happy life. And Nimki, who tried to save her family from falling apart till the end. But ultimately, no one could be happy with this gambling. Gerulal asks Nimki to forget her past and painful memories. He promises her a happy and contented life with him, a life she deserves. Gerulal then leaves the village, taking Nimki along with him. And with this, the movie ends. So this was our favorite movie of the day. Do watch this film to experience sour, sweet and salty flavors of life. Do tell us your opinion in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel. Take care.